How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL preseason video. And today we're starting back up the Team Watch series. We take a look at each individual team in the Premier League, subsequently in FPL, and we see what their attack's looking like what assets I'm favoring from that, what their defense is looking like, and what FPL assets we're looking at that, as well as their transfer business. What players have they been bringing in or letting go of? Because you don't want to be bringing in players that they're releasing or sending to a different league because they're not going to be in FPL. Or maybe you're bringing in a player and they potentially could be being replaced, as it were, subsequently by a transfer being made. So we can keep an eye on that as well. And first on the list is Arsenal. We're going to do it in alphabetical order, and Arsenal is first on the list. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new or haven't done so already. It greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so you can get the content as soon as it's readily available. Drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with any and all FPL news, from price changes to injury news and transfer news and anything in between. And lastly, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitch so you can see when we go live for our preview and deadline streams, which will be starting back up the week of FPL being launched. Arsenal has the opening game versus Crystal Palace on the Friday night. So we'll be doing a preview stream on the Monday or Tuesday, I think, and then hopefully we have one on the Friday as well. But you need to be followed so that you can get the notification whenever we do go live. So without further ado, let's take a look at Arsenal's attacking options from last season and how they could affect us this season. So on the screen, we have Arsenal's three main FPL assets from last season with their new and improved prices and how they were in the last 4 game weeks, as you can see on the graphic. And we also have just above me, you can see their season stats as well as their last 4 stats as well, and their 4 starting fixtures across the top, and the colors rate to the FDR rating as they do on FPL site. Now, some of these I don't necessarily agree with, but we'll go with those for the time being. 3 players I want to highlight was Martinelli, Smith Rowe, and Saka. 3 influential players in various different roles throughout the season for our FPL teams. And you can see that the way the season went, Smith Rowe started to get more and more involved, Saka was ever present, and Martinelli had some injuries now and again, but was still making an impact when he could. But towards the end of the season, as we can see from the last 4, Martinelli became a very prominent figure. He also took a penalty as well, which was very interesting, and you can see that from his 4 big chances, 7 chances created, 8 shots inside the box, 3.38 XGI. I think he had 1 goal and 2 assists in that time as well, so about right in terms of FPL returns. Arsenal as a whole were a very up and down team. There were times where they would, like the opening 3 games of the season, they lost every game. They lost to Brentford on the Friday night, and then I think they played City and Chelsea, if I remember correctly. Lost both of those, and everyone's thinking, oh, it's all in downhill from here. Arteta's got to go. And then they go on a stretch of games where they do really, really well. Just fumbling at the last minute, getting 5th place, although they won their game that they needed to win on the final day of the season, is just Spurs won as well. If we look at the stats above me, you can see that in the last 4 games that they played, only 8 big chances, which I believe is somewhere in the bottom half. Shots in the box is like around like mid-table, like maybe slightly above mid-table. Across the season, Arsenal were like decent attacking wise, but I think a lot of they need somebody who can basically be the focal point. And we'll talk about that when we get to the transfer section, because they signed Gabriel Jesus. But in terms of the asset prices, Martinelli and Smith Rowe at 6 million. Just which one of those is going to start most games? We think it's probably going to be Martinelli off the left, Saka off the right, Odegaard or this their new signing, which we'll talk about later on, Vieira, in the 10, and then Jesus through the middle. It's just who's going to play on that left-hand side. So basically, if you get the Martinelli or Smith Rowe right, I would favor Martinelli personally, who looked like he took pens. Also got a new shirt number as well. He's going to be wearing the number 11 this season. Saka is ever present on the right-hand side and is very good at the 8 million price bracket. We expected his price to be increased. But if Martinelli's taking penalties and he's going to be starting pretty much game in, game out, I think he could be quite valuable. He might get subbed at 60 minutes at times, but he can still do the damage in that time as well. So I would say he's probably the most one that I'm keen on to see what he does in preseason training, because if you look above, Arsenal's fixtures are very, very good. Crystal Palace away, Leicester at home, Bournemouth away, Fulham at home in the first 4. Those look to be quite nice fixtures. So we'll have to keep an eye on Arsenal's attacking assets in the preseason, how Arteta is going to set up. If he's going to play like a 3-4-3 and he's going to have like his outside wide men tucking in and getting central to the goal, and we do see Martinelli taking penalties, then Martinelli could be absolute gold this season. So we'll have to be keeping an eye on Arsenal because they do have some nicely priced midfield assets. Now let's talk about Arsenal's defensive options. So defensively, Arsenal were very good at probably the first half, first 2/3 of the season, but the last third, not so great, to be honest. Ramsdale was making a lot of saves, was looking quite good, very high on the BPS. His price inflated from 4.5 million to, I think it was almost 5.5 million. He was very, kind of akin to Martinez of 2 seasons ago from Aston Villa, who's actually the next team that we're going to do. Ben White was just kind of a steady 4.5 million defender. Tomiyasu's come in at 4.5 million as well. And I think defensively, not really too much to look at from Arsenal, to be honest. Because if you're looking at the likes of a Martinelli, maybe a Saka and a Gabriel Jesus, with their attack being potentially better than what it was before, more creators, more depth in the team, then you could be looking at a very, very good attack. Whereas defensively, I just don't think there's much excitement there. There's no real like fullback like you see it like a Chelsea or a Liverpool or a Man City, where you're just like, that's the guy, that's the one I go for. The closest thing is probably Tomiyasu at 4.5 million as a budget option. Kieran Tierney, just too injury prone, and I think 5 million, maybe a bit too expensive, with the likes of Reece James only being 1 more, Chilwell only being 1 million more as well. Perisic even being at 5.5 million, which we'll get on to later in the Chelsea and Spurs videos and how important they could be. So to be honest, unless you're just going for that like budget 4th or 5th million midfielder, I guess Tomiyasu's the guy to go for personally. But again, he did have his injuries at the back half of the season as well, where he was out for long spells. Ramsdale, personally, I think you could potentially do better at that price point. You know, the likes of Edouard Mendy at 5 million could be good. If Martinez returns back to form for Aston Villa, he could be better at 5 million. Even Nick Pope at 5 million, even though I think he's slightly overpriced, but if Newcastle are on the up and up, he could be very good as well. So I think Arsenal's defense is kind of a wait and see. If they play a 3-4-3, then we could see more defensive solidity. If there's like a Ben White, Tomiyasu playing right side at center back, you also have Gabriel playing left side at center back. You have like a Tierney or someone like that on the like left wing back. Then they have, maybe they bring in a right wing back or something like that, because it looks like potentially Bellerin could be leaving, or they could be moving on some of their fullbacks, like Tavares as an example. Maybe they bring in more of a specialist there. Have maybe 2 central midfielders and allow Odegaard to play, maybe playing in a midfield too. And then you can really have a front 3 of like Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus all kind of centralized and, being much more in and around the box than sometimes Arsenal lacked in most of their games, especially in the back half of the season, where they were constantly going back and forth around the edge of the box, but no real cutting edge, unfortunately, or someone who could consistently put the ball in the back of the net. So we'll have to see what is going to be going on with them. But in order to do that, we have to look at some of their transfer business. So let's take a look at what Arsenal have been doing thus far and what they're potentially looking to do in the transfer market this summer. So here are some of the transfers I wanted to discuss for Arsenal. So the main major signing that we only got Gabriel Jesus' price yesterday at the time of recording this on the Wednesday. So this is after FPL's been launched, which was on the Tuesday. So we've had basically less than 24 hours. Went for £45 million or approximately that. These are all approximations at the moment and not fully official unless notified by the club. I'm just getting them off basically off Transfermarkt, which is just a kind of a rounding thing because it does in euros and stuff like that. But Gabriel Jesus, 8 million coming from Manchester City FPL wise, and he is set as a forward and could be one of the very few forward options that are actually good, and he could be the guy who gets all the goals. Maybe he becomes the penalty taker. We'll have to see. We've seen him take a couple penalties for Man City before, although to not great effect, so that could damage his FPL returns if he were to miss a few. But I think this is a very good signing for Arsenal. He also can play a multitude of positions off the left, off the right. We've seen it for City as well. So I think he could diversify Arsenal's attack, add more depth because Arsenal are in Europe this season. I think it's a fantastic signing. Vieira as well, another one coming in at 6 million. He is going to be more of a Odegaard, I guess, backup or kind of replacement. Plays more of like the number 10 role as well. Lisandro Martinez, potentially from Ajax, both Man United and Arsenal in form, approximately going to be £45 million, which could be a very steep price for a centre-back. If they were to bring him in, I would expect them to go to a back three, playing him, Gabriel, and Ben White potentially, or maybe even playing him at left back at times, maybe even playing him in more of a central defensive midfield role, which he's also capable of doing as well. I think Man United are currently leading the race on that, but one to watch out for as Arsenal are still in the market potentially for a centre back, getting some defensive reinforcements. In terms of the outs, Hector Bellerin could be on his way back out, potentially permanently or on a loan. I think a loan is more likely at the moment, unless they can he can terminate his own contract, because he really enjoyed his time at Real Betis. He's been doing a lot of things to make football a much greener sport in terms of waste and green energy and that sort of stuff. So it's very good on him as well on off-field stuff, and he really likes it over there. So I think he might find his way out, especially now that they have Tomiyasu and Cedric who can play at fullback on his side. I think he may be surplus to requirements. Guendouzi was sold for around 11 million euros. He's gone off to Marseille. He was on loan, I believe, last season. He's now on a permanent deal. And Nicolas Pepe could be a problem that Arsenal might be able to get rid of. They might not. They brought him in for a massive sum of money, and he just hasn't worked out. I mean, personally, I was looking at him when he was linked to both Arsenal and United, and I thought he could be a fantastic player. But at 5.5 million in FPL, if he were to play game in, game out for a team maybe in the Premier League, be fantastic. But it looks like he's going to be going back to the French league. I think Lyon and Marseille and teams like that are potentially looking at him as a longer term option for their wide attackers. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. What players do you think Arsenal need to strengthen with in the transfer window? Me personally, I think they could go with a fullback that potentially could play both sides, but maybe a right-sided fullback that is attacking, so that they could use Tomiyasu if they want to as more of a defensive version. Maybe if Tavares leaves, maybe a left back as well. But if they get Martinez, then he could potentially play there as well. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And that's going to do it for Arsenal and their team watch. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Scout members area, the one place that you need to be tuned into for the upcoming FPL season. It has a wide variety of resources and tools that will help improve your FPL game today. It has a bunch of different members-only articles written by some of the best FPL managers across the globe, heat maps for all the players and positions, as well as player comparison tools, which will help you see side by side who is going to be more effective for your FPL team, fully customizable stats tables powered by Opta stats, and much, much more. Use the link down in the description below so that you can get access to the Fantasy Football Scout members area today. It'll help improve your FPL game. This video has been sponsored by Manscape, the best in male below the waist grooming. Make sure to check out manscape.com so you can see the latest and greatest updates to their lawnmower, as well as their performance package, and much, much more for all their gadgets and gizmos to help keep your family jewels looking as shiny as ever. Make sure to use the code FLAME20 so that you can get 20% off your next Manscaped order, as well as free worldwide shipping. Go check out manscaped.com today. And that is going to do it for Arsenal's edition of Preseason Team Watch. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new or haven't done so already. It greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Drop us a follow over on Twitter so that you can keep up to date with any and all FPL news, from transfer news to injury news and eventually price changes and anything in between. And make sure to give us a follow over on Twitch so you can join us live for our preview and deadline streams, which will be starting back up over on Twitch the week of FPL's start time, with Arsenal kicking off on that Friday of the week. I believe it's August 5th. So we'll be having a preview stream early on in the week, and then the deadline stream hopefully on the day of the deadline itself, because it is middle of the day. So hopefully I can get the time off so that I can do that stream for you as well. And lastly, make sure to check out Fantasy Football Scout. Link is in the description below. They provided us basically with all the stats from the members area. It's fantastic. I'm going to be using it again this season. It helped improve my FPL game. Thank you all for watching, and until the next one, take care.